this is Jean, and I just wanted to talk to you today a little bit about acting. And if you happen to catch the acting bug, don't sweat it. There's about 1.7 million actors on the planet, and if you catch the bug seriously, like I did back in 2003, you might end up being one of the 150,000 or so in the Screen Actors Guild in the it's called SAG-AFTRA, which is Screen Actors Guild, Actors Federation of Television and Radio Artists. But anyway, it was kind of a long journey for me, but I did it all in high school growing up for fun, like musicals, and then I was in dance recitals growing up when I was young and slim and all that stuff. So, but I still like to dance and sing and play tennis and swim and all this stuff. But the first time I moved to LA in 2003, I started doing extra work, which sort of swung me back into acting because I hadn't done anything like that since the high school musicals. Well, actually, I did some stuff in college a little bit, mostly modern dance and everything. But, you know, as you may know from another video, I have a degree in journalism. I started out in the news business, worked in small newspapers as a reporter, editor, photographer, and then later on sold insurance and substitute teaching and never became a permanent teacher, but I've had temp office jobs and cashiering and whatnot. So out in California, I really caught the acting bug. After my mom passed from cancer, I really wanted to do something different. I helped her fight it for 11 years. And so I ended up out there after a friend of mine had a destination wedding out there as an older single, and I drove at the time I had a couple of cats, and they were elderly, you know, of course, later, but then I got another cat and dog out there and named them Emmy and Oscar. So, and then, but anyway, I've moved back and forth, and that was one way I dealt with it, because the rents out there are significantly more expensive than Texas. At least they used to be, but unfortunately now it's getting more expensive here in Texas. So, but I've moved back and forth from Dallas to LA, and then I lived in Austin a couple times too. So, but I did a lot of extra work out there in between substitute teaching, and back in 2003, you could literally do extra work almost every day. Some of the really younger people, I was already in my 40s then, but some of the really young people with lots of energy, and I probably would have done that too because I worked like that in the news business in my 20s. They would literally work all night on one set, go back to another set the next day. They had all those chairs to sit on. It's like you can buy these chairs that you just like, basically like you would take to a picnic or whatnot, or they have more comfortable ones. And you're literally on a set a lot, and you know, they do your hair and makeup sometimes, but then sometimes if you're not featured or up close as an extra, that you're just in the background, they don't fuss over you as much. But I've had all kinds of situations in that. Sometimes they would pull my hair up so tight I could almost had a headache, or they would put it into like a tiny top knot, and then later on they'd tease it all up and then put it into a like a big bouffant, and then they put like a whole can of hairspray on it, and it usually would take a whole bottle of cream rinse at night to get all that out. But anyway, so or put lots of makeup on you, or whatever they needed to do for you to be whatever character, but you're just an extra, you're really not an actor, okay? So then I started meeting some more serious actors on the sets that had gone to film school and were making their own movies, already writing scripts and everything. So I started taking a bunch of serious classes, which were not cheap, and I ran up some charge cards and everything doing that. But anyway, I took lots of classes. I took commercial acting, improv, acting for the camera, the television, and film acting. A lot of classes were done just by the month, or you could take recurring scene study. I took from some of the best teachers. Another time I'll go through a lot of the teachers and give you their background. If you want to look up, my resumes are online up on Twitter on Actors Access. I've got a resume. Took with several. I was very lucky back in 2003. There were lots of great teachers. You know, of course, that was decades before the COVID thing and everything. So I was able to literally do extra work all the time. I did all my auditions in person. And I would submit myself for roles, and then basically later on I got agents, you know, and I did a lot of student films, and that's a really good way to get started. Do student films, do some theater classes, extra work, and by then you're pretty much into it. You've caught the bug, but you still will probably have to do your other jobs and businesses. In fact, 97% of actors always have to have another job or business. And if you notice some of the big celebrities that are in the 3 to what used to be 5%, now it's in the like top 3% or so, they all still have a business. They sell, you know, wine or liquor or cosmetics, perfume, all kinds of stuff. Jewelry, all kinds of jewelry and clothes and everything. So basically, because they have a high overhead, because at that point they've gone heavy into producing, writing, directing, and they have big film studios, or basically they may have a production company, and then but anyway, I've sort of looked into all of these things, but I'm still just basically just I hate to use the word struggling actor, but because that sends a message out to the universe. But and I'm not really a working actor because I don't work every day. In fact, most actors don't work every day as an actor. I'm a working actor in the fact that I still have to work for a living even though I'm older. And possibly if I had not caught the acting bug, I might have been able to think a little more about retiring or semi-retirement. I sort of really just threw myself into it. Insurance was not as interesting to me, although that was always hard for me. I was on a strictly commission. I never made a lot of money at that. I always just stayed afloat. But I keep my licenses with that up some because occasionally I may have to work in various insurance jobs just to kind of make the ends meet. And when you get closer to retirement or thinking about it, you may not be able to afford to retire. So you may have to still work some to supplement or to stay afloat or make your bills or whatever. So that's a whole nother thing. But I think acting basically for me saved me because I ended up being an older single without kids. And I thought by my age I might even have grandkids by now, even possibly. I'm not too young or old to be, or too young, I guess, to be a grandmother. I'm young at heart anyway. So, but basically, after my mom passed of cancer, I was sort of a little lost because I had helped her so much fight it for 11 years. She did live to be 80 with it. My grandmother had passed at 99 almost, just a couple days short of that. So basically, you know, when you end up in that situation and you thought you were going to have 8 kids as a Catholic, you sort of like think, now what? And I had always thrown myself into all my jobs and careers, and acting was kind of like a dream job I had when I was a little kid. I always would see Disney movies, and I would like to do that. And but it's fun because you get to be a lot of different characters. Like for my auditions, I can be different characters. I mean, you have to be chosen to audition, basically. They sort through hundreds of people just to pick who they want to audition. And then once you audition, you might get a call back. You might not ever hear anything. So if you don't hear anything, it's done. You're over on that one. They basically, nobody calls you or your agent to say, oh, she or he didn't get the part, or we do not want them to audition for a callback. It's basically agents work tirelessly, and I want to thank all the agents that I've ever had work for me. And I think you should thank your agents, even if they're beginner agents. They've been at it a long time, they've been at it for a long time, because most agents just tirelessly submit you for different roles, and there may be days, months, weeks, years even before sometimes they hear back from any of the casting directors. And casting directors are under a lot of pressure also, because they have to make so many people happy, and they're like the intermediary. And most everybody in this business is on a kind of like a strictly commission anyway, where there's an agent or casting director or whatever, unless you work as a studio executive, you know, on a salary, or you work for like a top agency and you get a set salary. The similarities between the way people are paid and being an insurance agent are sort of strikingly the same, as far as so many people are on a strictly commission. Even a lot of independent filmmakers are constantly looking for their next project, their next script to put together a project. It may take months, years to put together a project. It's not easy. I mean, but it's fun and it's interesting and it's challenging. So the only really kind of impossible dream part about it for most people is making money at it. But if you don't worry about that part, always have another job or business to fall back on, you might really love it. And it might be something that you really enjoy, even if you're already like an artist or a musician, or you know, you have other things that you do creatively to make a living. You're maybe a dancer, a model or something, or if you even come from another industry, even if it's something that is not technically considered creative, because a lot of people have creative talent even though they never developed it. And I know when I was growing up, it was discouraged about going into anything creative because most people can't make a living at it. And I do live in Texas, and at the time I grew up here in Dallas, it was considered kind of a risky thing to do. But so many things are now, you know, to have any kind of business. And I look at all those businesses. When I lived out in LA the last time, I had moved out there right before the pandemic, and I was really kind of in a mindset to do better in the industry. I think I've been in it almost, well, now it's been over 20 years, but I've just taken so many classes over the years. I studied. I feel like I've gotten better and better at my craft, and there's a certain mindset that it takes too to make it in this business. And there were times that I had fallen off of that after certain auditions, sometimes even occasionally when I had a better audition where if I'd booked it, I would have had a role with like a quote, a movie star person, you know. But sometimes even if you book those type of roles, you don't necessarily film it with the movie star. You might end up talking back and forth to like a lamp or something that they put, and then they insert it, especially for the smaller roles that I've auditioned for that aren't that many lines. But anyway, at any point, I was in a really good place in my mind, but then the pandemic hit. It changed everything. But it was so devastating to see so many businesses out in LA that had gone out of businesses. So many businesses fell anyway. Anybody that's ever had a business or knows somebody that has knows that it takes tireless hours. Your business is like your baby. And it's just like trying to train to be a professional actor or artist or golfer or anything that takes a lot of determination, kind of like going out for the Olympics or something. So basically, when you put that much time and effort into something and it still doesn't work, it's challenging. But if you love it, you'll still do it anyway. You do what you can to make it work. And a lot of business people have other jobs and things that they do. You know, even people, you hear stories about people that even maybe had a restaurant, still had to have another job to pay some other bills or something. But when that all went down, you saw that supposedly 80% of all businesses fail, and or even people that are on a strictly commission, like when I've sold insurance or advertising. A lot of times those kind of jobs are hard to survive in. And so basically, it's already tough when you're in that kind of set, when you're in that kind of a situation, I guess I should say, scenario. But then the pandemic basically just bulldozed over all those businesses, and they just had to go out of business totally. And life has a way sometimes of destroying our dreams, but you know what? You can just get up and start over the next day and do it again and again. And it's so funny because, like right now, Dallas has gotten to be more expensive, and even Austin is more expensive than it used to be. And I used to always come back here to start working other jobs, and then I would still always kind of build back up into the acting and do that whenever I could. Now you can do so much on self-taping, and that's almost the way the industry works now. So many actors travel a lot. They're auditioning for one project while they're actually on another project, in their motel room or whatever. Or it's like a feast or famine thing. You might get a role and then you might have to audition for something else that night when you're tired, or sometimes you're not in the mood to be like a happy person for a commercial, or to be really sad. Maybe you're feeling better about your life right then, and then you have to all of a sudden get into this more sad character, but it's all part of acting and everything. And if you've always had a lot of different jobs and everything, that's kind of what I sort of like about it, because I get to experience all that with the acting. But it's done a lot remotely now, just like a lot of jobs. Like my most recent job, just to support my acting and my life and pay bills, I had worked a call center job, but I worked here out of my apartment for insurance customer service, and it was all done remotely, just like the acting auditions are done remotely, and self-taping is prevalent. I will often have another friend or an actor read the other lines of the other character, like either on speakerphone or preferably on Zoom, but either one can work, and then film on a video on either my iPhone or iPad, and you can do the Zoom over your computer, or it's just a lot. I mean, it's really a lot to orchestrate, but now you have to do all that yourself, and that's how it works. So you can kind of live different places now. It's just that if you do book something, they expect you to be there right away. But there's so many of us that if for some reason somebody can't get to where they need to be, there's always somebody that they can just pick up a phone and have 3 other perfect actors for that role like that, because they're all connected to all these different casting directors and agents, and there's just so many of us, okay? So another thing too about SAG-AFTRA, I wouldn't be in any rush to join that. I would perfect my craft and get a really nice resume going with lots of projects before you're in SAG-AFTRA, because once you're in SAG-AFTRA, then you're limited as to what projects you can audition for. You can no longer audition for some of the non-union projects or independent projects. So that can be a problem if you're trying to get more work. I'm in SAG-AFTRA now. Like I said, it took me quite a while to get into it, and even then I got so excited to finally be in the SAG-AFTRA. But I had done so much non-union extra work 24/7 for like between 2003 and 2008, the first time I lived in LA, in between all the other things, the auditioning and some smaller roles and different things I was doing in theater and classes and substitute teaching and all this stuff. So basically, that's pretty much it for now. I'll go into some more detail on my next video, and have a great day or evening depending on when you're watching this. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of give you a format and let you know too that there's a number of acting coaches all over the world, and in every state too. Lots of great ones in LA and in Texas, and a lot of them that teach online, which I've taken some of those classes. But I may end up teaching a few acting classes myself here. In fact, I might put together, like I mentioned before, like a format. And then if you would still want more advanced training, I can recommend countless acting coaches. I've been very blessed to train with some of the best of the best, and we can go into all that later. And it's, like I said, it's fun and it's interesting, and don't worry about it if you never make the big time, okay? Because do it because you love it, you know, and don't, like I was talking to another friend that I had met back in LA, and then he had moved back to Florida, and we've talked a lot about this. Don't just move out to LA or New York and then worry about how am I going to pay my rent or something just to be there. You know, move because you want to be there for other reasons, because now you can do the self-taping. I mean, just don't put yourself in a uncomfortable position financially. It is kind of a struggle, especially as you get older. But do it because you love it, and if you do love it, you'll just continue with it, basically. Okay, well, thank you, and have a great day or evening.